What's up, everybody? So I recently went on my very first Boundary Waters trip. So there's a few things I'd like to break down and kind of give you guys some tips on fishing, kind of campsites, things like that. And I just want to say right off the bat, it is absolutely spectacular up there. So if you've ever thought about going to the Boundary Waters, I just totally recommend it. Go. It is so beautiful. You just need to experience it. It's awesome. So let's just start right off at the beginning. We took off from home base at about 7 a.m. in the morning, and we should have been to our campsite around 11:30. And since we did not get the campsite that we wanted to, I think it was around 2:30 before we actually got to the campsite. So make sure you plan for an extended amount of rowing just in case that happens. We basically started in Madro, right there by Eli, and we did use a guide service, which is actually very nice. I would recommend doing that because they will actually take you to your spot, bring all your gear there, drop you off, and then they also pick you up on your return. So I definitely recommend using a guide. It was a very great experience. So basically, we started off in our portage, and we went through several portages, I think 4 total, before we actually found a campsite. And that is one of the things you're definitely going to want to think about. So we originally were going to be in Horse Lake, and the campsites were actually all taken, even though it's kind of not supposed to work that way. So we ended up having to go through a couple extra portages to find a campsite for us. It did turn out very good. We got a very cool campsite. So let's talk about portages for a little bit. And when you're kind of getting your gear together, I definitely recommend setting your packs up and trialing them before like the day of to make sure that you can carry them. So in other words, if you have a big commando type knife that weighs 10 pounds and you think, oh, this is gonna be awesome to bring, I need this up there, you don't. So be very wary of overpacking. That will definitely ruin your portaging real fast. The portages weren't really terrible. It's kind of just basic hiking stuff. You should be able to handle that no problem, as long as, like I said, you don't way overpack. So definitely make sure that you are able to carry your pack before you get there, because that can definitely hurt, because my pack was definitely a little bit heavier than I would like to have been. So definitely check your pack, make sure it's not too heavy before you guys set out. So when you're loading up your gear and looking for stuff like that, I would definitely, bring as light of stuff as you can absolutely possibly find, as far as tents and all that kind of stuff. So I'm pretty sure you're going to want to bring a sleeping mat, because if you lay on the straight ground for a few days in a row, you're definitely going to feel that. So bring a mat. Have something to boil water, like a jet boil, because if you're going to use those like mountain meals or any type of meal like that, which I do highly recommend, because you can basically just open those up, pour your water in, let it sit for a little bit, and then you're eating, and they're very light. Things like nuts, if you bring nuts, there's a lot of protein in that, and you can get quite a few of them in there, and it's not a lot of weight. Beef jerky, that was one of the things I definitely brought, because there again, it's good protein, not a lot of weight. I brought my hammock up there, which was really nice just for kind of lounging out, because hammocks you can get and they're just like a little bundle, and you can set them up and just kind of relax in them. And definitely bring a hammock if you have one. It's really nice. So like I said, we did not end up getting the campsite that we wanted. We ended up in between Fort Town and I think Horse Lake is where we ended up, and it actually had a portage through it, so we were a little concerned that maybe people were going to be coming through our campsite a lot, but that really never happened. I think we only seen like 2 other groups that whole entire time we were up there. So, but the campsite ended up being very awesome. I mean, there was like a little stream going between 2 lakes there, and it was very peaceful. At night you could hear that kind of stream in the background, and it was just peaceful, just awesome. So I like to give you guys some pretty good tips on fishing. The biggest thing I would say is, for sure you're going to want Lindy rigs and leeches. That's probably the easiest way to catch fish there. We used 3 different types of Lindy rigs. We used a float Lindy rig, one with a spoon, and then one with just a hook on there. And all 3 of them seemed to work pretty well. So I wouldn't necessarily, pick one over the other. But One thing you do want to do is make sure you have a bunch of them. I think I went up there with 8 and it wasn't enough because there is a lot of rocks in the water there and we did snag up a bunch. So definitely make sure that you do bring a lot of Lindy rigs and you have quite a few leeches also. The main things you can kind of do with the Lindy rigs is you can definitely troll those in your canoe, and you can actually just kind of sit there with them out too. That did work also, but we trolled from about, I don't know, 30 feet from shore, and we just slowly paddled, and that seemed to work very well. Also, kind of more in the evening by the little stream we had, we just cast it out and just let them sit there, and we were also able to catch some walleyes doing that with them just sitting there at the end of that stream. So that is definitely another good option. Or if you're, you know, just out on the regular lake, you don't have a stream, I'm sure you can just cast it out there too. It'd probably be pretty good also. The next thing I'd really like to talk about, and this thing came in clutch, it worked really well, is an X-Wrap. So I was using the smaller X-Wraps, and actually the orange one was the most effective, and that thing was just killer. We were able to troll that and cast it and do very well with it. The key with the X-Wrap there was you definitely want to use a twitch and then a pause. So you want to twitch that bait really hard, and then on the pause, they're always kind of smacking it on the pause. It was never in kind of on the retrieve, it was always on the pause. So that is definitely a huge thing I would bring up there again. And we did happen to use that a lot, like on where river mouse were coming out right in front of those, and we were catching a lot of walleye there. So definitely try out an X-Wrap. I think you'll be happy with that. We threw a lot of other crankbaits too, but they were not consistent. The X-Wrap was very consistent with that just kind of pause in between the twitching. So the wildlife up there was not as much as I expected to see. I did get attacked kind of almost by a loon. I mean, it didn't really come at me, but it kind of freaked out a little bit, and I did happen to find, when I was standing there, I kind of looked over and there was a nest there, so I knew why the loon was a little mad at me, so I did disperse from that area very fast. We also saw some beaver, which was very cool. We actually rolled right up onto one that was eating on the shore, and it kind of just slowly walked off, and that was really cool. Obviously, there was some eagles up there, but overall, there was not much more than that. There was not a ton of wildlife up there. Luckily, there was no bears around us. We didn't hear any bears. All our food was safe, so that was good, but did not see as much wildlife as I thought. So we went there towards the end of May, and the bugs were not bad at all. If you're going in that time of year, I don't think you're going to have a big problem with it. It was a little chilly overnight, but nothing a standard sleeping bag wouldn't work for, so it wasn't real bad. If you're going to hammock outside, you're probably going to want to have a sleeping bag in that also, but that time of year, at the end of May, like I said, it was pretty nice for bugs and coolness overnight. So that was my first trip to the Boundary Waters, and I can tell you right now, I definitely want to go again. It was a fantastic experience. It is just beautiful up there. Go. I mean, do yourself a favor, go check it out. It's awesome. It's one of those things where, you know, if you get to do it in your lifetime, do it. It's fantastic. I am. He's running out. Can't just force him. Decent pike.